Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tracy. I'm an upcycler. I love to take thrifted items and turn them into fun, creative clothing, purses, accessories. And today I am going to be working on a really whimsical, fun pair of jeans. They will be distressed and patched and have appliques. We'll widen the leg. It'll be a lot of fun, I think. So I will also be giving you a great tip on how to source these whimsical appliques. I got a great tip from somebody. I'll be sharing that with you. And the first clip I am going to show you will be the jeans. My first couple clips are going to be very creatively edited because I recently got in a little bit of trouble for posting some pictures, some inspirational pictures of a fairly famous designer's work. So I started these jeans before that all happened, so I have to edit some of that out, but you'll still be able to understand what I'm talking about. It won't be that bad. So let's get going. Or pattern jeans. You know, half the work, if you can find some fun floral or botanical jeans, half the work is done for you. And I think these are really cute. They're a little more low-waisted than I want. They fit me nice in the waist, but they're skinny jeans and I want them wider in the leg. So we are going to make these wider in the leg. I'm going to add a fabric strip down the side. Okay, so I want to put some fun appliques on my jeans and they can be tricky to resource. Well, I have an online friend, Jo from J. Callie Handcrafted. She has some really fun upcycled items. She sells them on Etsy. And I messaged her on TikTok and I said, you have the greatest fabric appliques on your jeans. And she said, I get them from Etsy. And she says she types in applique fabrics for cutting. And I researched, and so I'm adding fabric applique fabric. And her favorite is Opal Annie 71. And I went to Opal Annie 71's shop. Oh my gosh, anything that you want. Well, I'll show you what I got, and I'll give you names of two more Etsy shops. And I'm also going to put Jo's of J. Callie Handcrafted, her Etsy website in my description. So here is a whole sheet of cats. Isn't that cool? And it even has instructions and supplies if you want to add these to jeans or a shirt, things like that. Now I got that one from, it's called Violet Soup, and I'll put their link in my description. And then I got this big fabric full of birds. And I got this from Fabulous Textiles. I'll also put that link in my description. So hopefully that helps. I just want to add one more note on sourcing. So if you've watched my other videos, you know I go to eBay and I look for bed sheets with flowers, cabbage rose flowers, blankets, curtains, things like that. But I discovered a new search on eBay, pillowcases. And so a lot of times people are just selling one pillowcase or a pair, and eBay is loaded with, there's so many more pillowcase fabrics than like sheets and things like that. Now I found this one and I'm going to use these flowers on the jeans from this. So pillowcases on a eBay search, another great source. The first thing I want to do is cut the sides open. Now there's a seam on the side of the jeans and I will cut 1/2 inch behind that seam on the back side of the jeans from the bottom all the way to the top. Typically there's a grommet here and a belt loop more like here, and that just helps you to avoid all those danger spots. So I won't measure this, I'll just eyeball it and cut 1/2 inch away from that seam. on both sides. Now what I want to do is add a partial insert on the sides, and I'm going to use denim, but you could have a lot of fun here too. I've added quilt fabric, pattern fabric. The only tip I have for that is try to stay with a similar weight as your jeans so that it doesn't, if it's too thin, it'll kind of collapse in on the side. You want a nice durable piece of fabric. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is make a pattern. And my pattern will be triangle shaped because I don't want them any bigger in the waist, but I want them wider in the leg. And so I measured from the waistband to the very bottom, and I got 34.5 inches. I'm going to make my triangle 35 inches tall just because there might be an error somewhere. I'd rather have it be a little too long than a little too short. So I got a piece of wrapping paper and folded it in half, and I measured from the top to where the 35-inch mark is because that's how long I want my triangle, and I made a line right here. And then on that line, I want my triangle 8 inches wide at the bottom. So since this is folded, I only have to measure over 4 inches and make a mark. And then at the very top, I want my triangle to be only 1/2 inch, and that just barely gives me room for seam allowance because I don't want my waist any larger. So I am just measuring over 1/4 inch and making a mark. And now all I do is take my yardstick, this dot down at the bottom, that 4 inches over, line it up with that 1/4 inch at the top, and make a line. And now all I have to do is cut that out, and that will be my pattern for the side seams. Now I tried to find the lightest pair of scrap denim that I have, and this is it. And it's still not really light enough for me, so I'm going to turn it inside out and use that lighter side for my right side. And now I'm just going to lay my pattern on the jeans and trace around it. Now I'm lucky that these are big enough for this pattern. Typically they're not, and I have to piece a couple pieces of denim together and then trace my pattern. And then I just cut that pattern out, and I'll need two, one for each leg. Now this has a pocket on it. I'm just going to cut that off. You can seam rip it if you want, but I don't get that fussy. Now what I want to do is partially attach this to the jeans. I won't attach it to the back. I'm only attaching it to the front side of the pant leg because when I put my artwork on there, I want to continue the flow onto this piece of denim instead of having just like choppy patches all over. So I'm going to attach just one side of this triangle to each pant leg. And how I do that is I'm just going to take this pant leg that's cut open and fold it in so I can look at it here. And I am going to put wrong sides together at the edge. Now, the dark side of this this strip is the wrong side for me. And this is the wrong side of the jeans. So I'm going to line the edges up. I'll line it up at the top. And I won't pin this or anything. I will just take it to my machine. It's a just really simple stitch, really. And I will do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'll start at the top and I'll sew this all the way down to the bottom. And then when I'm done, I'll go back and do it again so that it's extra durable. And then of course, I'll do it on this side as well. Now this is raw at the top. If you want to make your triangle longer so that you can hem that, go right ahead, but I've always just left mine raw and they're perfectly fine. So I'll go get those sewn on. Okay, I'm going to use a straight stitch, and I'm going to use white thread because that's what these jeans were originally sewn with. So here's the inside of one leg, the front of the leg. I'm going to put wrong sides together, line it up at the top, stick it under my machine, forward and back, and I'm just going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance and just cruise all the way down the side. And when I get all the way to the bottom, I'll go back, do it again for extra durability. Okay, so now you can already start to see I have more of a wider, trendier leg. This is only attached in the front and not in the back. So the next thing I want to do is I want to cut out some square holes for some floral patches to be patched on the underneath side. So I am going to just draw out where I am going to cut my holes, and I think I'll cut one right there, and that is 4 inches by almost 4 inches. I think I'll do another larger one right here, about 5 by 4. Maybe I'll do one right here, and that is 4.5 by 5. You know, you make them whatever size you want. And then I think I'll turn it over while I'm cutting squares. I might as well do the front and back. And I haven't seen the back of the jeans I'm actually doing this sort of demo on, so I'm just going to have to wing it. And I think a square maybe there, 4 inches by 4, and then maybe one. I might cut off this pocket and do one right here. You know, again, that's about 4 by 4. I'm going to go ahead and cut that pocket off while I got you here, so I can draw out that line. Okay, I'm going to finish that square. Now I am just going to go around, and all the places that I drew those squares, I'm going to cut out. We are just building on layers here. This is just the first little layer. Okay, so here are my holes cut out. I have 3 on the front and 3 on the back. Now I am going to patch them from underneath with the flowers from this robe. And this is a really cute robe. I bought it for these pretty roses a couple years ago. I've worn it on and off, but now it's time to use it for its intended purpose, and I'm going to make patches. So now what I'm doing, here's a square. I'm just cutting squares out of my robe fabric to cover these. And I like mine to be 1/2 inch to 1 inch on each side, extending past that cut. And it varies because I don't measure this, I just kind of eyeball it. Now my robe fabric, that's the front, it's a little darker, and the back is a little lighter. I actually want the light side to be showing through the pant leg. I like the light side a little bit better for this pair of jeans. And now I will just simply go around. I always pin the corners first and then fill in with pins where I need to. Now that I have my patches all pinned, I am going to go to my machine and I am going to sew them on with my largest zigzag stitch. I'm going to use gold thread, and I am just going to stay as close to the edges as I can. And I like to use zigzag and gold thread just because that will add another detail to the front. Okay, so that's what those little patches look like on the front. And now what I think I'll do is break up some of this solid denim with a couple of the hole patches that I cut out for these. And I think I'm going to pin and sew one right there and pin and sew one right there. And I will just stay close to the edge, use a gold colored zigzag stitch, kind of like how I sewed these. Okay, now this is the left front pant leg. Here's the top of the pants. And what I want to do down towards the bottom is do some distressing and a patch from behind. So what I'm going to do is just mark out with a long rectangle an area. I'll measure that for you. 9.5 long by 2 wide. And then I have it laying on top of one of my old cutting boards. This is years old. I've since bought a new one. I wouldn't do this to a cutting mat that I use to actually cut fine pieces. So I have a Slice brand box cutter, and I am just going to tear that up, rip it up, destroy it. And be careful, because you might have to press pretty hard and you kind of get going fast. It's easy to clip your hand or your fingers, so keep your fingers out of the way. And I just go to town. These have a little bit of spandex in them. I have to push a little harder, and they won't fray quite as much as 100% cotton, but it'll still get the trick done here. Okay, there's my distressing. Now I am just going to clip some of these strips out of here so that I will be patching it from behind with denim, and I want to be able to make sure I see some of that through. So I am just going to clip some of these little strips out of here. And then I'm going to turn it over and pin my patch on. Just turn that over, lay my patch. I'm using the darker side. This is the denim I used on the side. Now I'm using the darker side to show through those holes, and I will pin that. Okay, so here is my distressing and my denim patch underneath. On the front leg, or on the front of the pants, I have it right about there. And I did it on the back of the pants right here. And now what I need to do is just go to my machine. And again, I'm going to use my gold colored thread, a large zigzag stitch, and just stitch around it. And I will be sewing on those little side patches that I added earlier at the same time. Okay, now I want to add some of my larger applique so that I can fit smaller things in around them. And I am going to cut out the big orange cat because I have a big orange cat. And then I think I'll cut out this face. I may or may not use this on the back, but I definitely am going to use this on the front pant leg. Okay, I know you see these guys running around in my background now and then, so I thought I'd introduce you. This is Lily, and this is Tigger, and they're brother and sister. They're about 7 years old. Cutting these out, I'm just staying pretty close to the brownish color. I don't want a lot of white showing. Okay, so I am going to pin this kitty on the front right leg, And I am keeping him up about 4 inches from the bottom because I may want to double cuff this. I'm not exactly sure yet. And I want his face sort of on this floral denim because that will be seen. This front part of the leg will be seen the easiest. And so I am just going to pin around. I'm going to grab my cardboard and stick it in between this pant leg so that I can pin easier. And the side of him, I will kind of turn this around after I get the front pin and pin him. He kind of wraps around the pant leg there. You can certainly use fusible webbing here if you want to. I choose not to. It's just personal preference. There's no right or wrong. Fusible webbing will also help with any excess fraying. I'll have a little fraying outside my stitch line. Okay, I did use the kitty head on the back left leg right underneath that floral patch. Now I'm just going to go to my machine and sew both these on, and I'm going to use a straight stitch, gold thread, and stay very close to the edge and sew all the way around. Okay, here's what the kitties look like. And now I am going to add the rest of the decoration, pin it on the front, and show you how I do that and how I sew it. And then when I'm all done sewing that, then I'll do the back. Basically, I'm just creating a collage here, cutting out of fabrics and laying things where I want them. I haven't pinned them yet. Now, this is just art. You do whatever you want, but I'll kind of walk you through what I did. So I have this big flower right here, and that's a big cabbage rose. And I have this bed skirt that I bought a while back off of eBay for another project. And so I just cut that big flower out of there. And then these flowers, these little sort of watercolor looking flowers, pastel-y, are from that pillowcase that I showed you. Just cut those out. I have one here, 3 in a cluster here, and a whitish pink one up there. And then I have 2 denim patches right here towards the top of the pant leg. And this one is about 4 by 4, and this one is about 5.5 by 1.5. And then I think all I have left is the birds. And so I went to that bird fabric that I showed you, and I cut out just sort of this robin, and I kept some of the flowers with it. A little yellow bird with a flower, kind of a blue bird that I put right here. And now I'm just going to pin all these on and sew them. And I will sew everything the same. I will use a straight stitch. I will use gold colored thread, and I will just stay as close to the edges as I can get and go around every single little patch. I have all the front sewn on. I'm trying to give you a little bit of a better view here of where things are placed. Okay, now it's time to do the back. Okay, on the back, what I'm going to do is just put a rectangle patch, 6 by 1.5, just sort of off center a little bit, right underneath that belt loop. And then I have a white flower, a little yellow bird, put him there, and a robin, pink flower, just kind of on the corner of this patch. And then, let's see, I have a big cabbage rose here, kind of overlapping that distressing, and a little blue bird on the corner down here at this patch. Now I am just going to pin all these on and get them sewn just like I did the front. Okay, so here is what the back looks like all sewn. And now all I have to do is sew these sides back together. Sewing up the side is really simple. Keep in mind, if you have some jeans around the house that don't fit you anymore, maybe they're too small, this is a great way to just even make them bigger, even if you don't do all the applique. The triangle that I have here is small, but you can make it as wide as you want to make your jeans fit comfortably. So I am going to put wrong sides together. I want my seams on the outside and they'll fray and just add a nice little detail. And I will take it to my machine, use a straight stitch. I won't pin this. I will just line it up at my machine, do my stitch, back stitch, do a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and just sew all the way down the side and just kind of keep lining it up as I go. And then when I'm done with the first stitch, I'll go back and do a second for extra durability. The tip I have here for you, always start at the top on both sides, because if it's misaligned anywhere, you'd rather have it be misaligned at the bottom where you can just kind of snip it off rather than at the waistband. So I always start at the top. Okay, this is what they look like all sewn. They're all done. And now I want to go wash and dry them. And I will use normal denim cycles that I use on my own jeans. Wash and then tumble dry. All these raw edges, the washer and dryer will get them fraying. And when it's all done drying, I may have some extra long ones that I have to snip off. Now, that's a personal preference. Maybe you like lots of fraying, maybe you don't. You snip off as much or as little as you want. And then when that's all done, I'll come back and show you what they look like on. Okay, here they are. So fun and comfy. You know, I've never named a piece of clothing ever, but I think I'm going to name these because of the way the big, powerful kitty lives peacefully with the little birds. I'm going to call this piece Harmony. So I'm going to bring it in a little closer so that you can see more detail. And I thank you so, so much for watching.